Hello and welcome to how to teach a class. So what we're going to go over in this is when you are not sure of where to begin, where you're thinking about you want to teach a class, and you're just not sure on how to actually go about that. So this is going to be the basic steps on how to teach a class, how to actually find a way to teach the class, things like that. So we're going to do researching your topic, level of your class's ability, creating a curriculum, um, creating the class information, testing your curriculum, testing your presentation, adaptability when teaching, how to sign up to teach, and then dealing with low class turnout. So first things first, researching your topic. You've got your idea, you kind of know what you want to teach, but what you want to do is also go out and take a look, either books at the library, go online, watch videos, read blog posts, just get as much information as you can. Most of us aren't experts in our field. We're not expected to be experts in our field. So there's a lot out there to teach and to learn. So when I first started teaching my first class, the first year was way different the second year because I learned so much in between that time, even though I thought I knew a lot the first time around. So even if you've taught the class before, go back, take another look at the information. There may be new stuff out there depending on what it is that you're teaching, or you may just find a new resource that's been published between that time. So never a bad thing to learn more about the topic that you're going to teach on. Second thing is the level of your class ability. You may not go into your class actually knowing what the class ability is going to be. So if you're not sure, what you can do is kind of market your class for the specific kind of ability that you want them to have. So this means we're talking about a 101 class, advanced class, things like that. You can put it in the title. So like, welcome to teach a class 101. This would be the first class. Or if I wanted to be like advanced lessons on how to teach a class, it kind of markets that out to the crowd itself that you want to teach to, as far as what the actual kind of like the writing comprehension and topics that you're going to have covered in the class are going to have. Also, if you just don't feel comfortable with putting that in your title, if it just doesn't look good, you don't like how it sounds, you can also add a description onto your class in most cases, depending on kind of where you're teaching at, if that's available. So you could say, teaching a class. This is a beginning class to learn how to teach others. Very simple, short, to the point, and lets people know exactly what kind of class they're expecting when they go into it. And then you've got creating a curriculum. So this is where you're going to be actually building out what you want to teach. This may be for also how to create the class information, which is our the next part. But I do both generally at the same time. It's completely up to you. You could build out the curriculum first and just kind of explore where you want to go, what topics you want to cover, things of that nature. It's kind of like an outline for your class. So you don't have to make this. I find it a very good avenue. Again, I use it later on when I'm doing my class information, but you can help it to figure out where you're going with it. Again, not necessary, but can be helpful, just kind of organizing your thoughts in general. The next step after that one would be creating your class information. So this is going to be, again, if you do building a curriculum, you're going to be growing onto that and actually creating the class information. So this is where you're going to be building out like the actual documentation and information that you're going to be teaching and or passing out to the class. So handouts are really great. We only retain about 10% of what we're normally taught in a class, is what they found from high schools and colleges. So we lose a lot of the information depending on, how invested of interest we are in the class, how good our memory retention is, things of that nature. So handouts are great. They should cover the same information that you covered in your class, if not also expanding on that. So adding in pictures, demonstrations, links to different places, anything like that. Those are excellent opportunities to put those into a document that you can either hand out to the class physically, post it online, share it around in a group, what have you. Just remember that if you are using resources from someone that is not yourself, you want to go ahead and give credit to those resources, either as a footnote underneath an image, a footnote at the bottom of the page, or just a section at the end of your document that has a link to the information that was referenced. So Make sure to always give credit where credit is due. The next thing after that would be testing your curriculum. It sounds a little bit silly, but this is where you test drive your class. So you're looking at your curriculum or your class information, or again, combination of both. And then you're going to go ahead and read it out loud, or at least mentally read it. Reading out loud works a little bit better because you're actually using the words and talking through with it. And it helps you figure out key phrases, things that don't flow correctly, information that just doesn't jive, or in a lot of cases too, you may think of extra information. While I was writing the class document on how to teach a class, I found that I went from having 4 topics, and then I was like, oh, I need this, I need to add this. You know what? This should be a good idea to have in the class. And that stuff was a lot of what I got by either rereading it or by talking about, just literally talking it out loud. The additional thing is that you can time yourself. So most classes run either half hour or an hour, depending on your class, where you're at, what have you. So you want to make sure that you don't go over that time. Coming under the time is okay. It gives you time to talk, or you just get to end your class early, which is no problem at all. But generally, you don't want to run over on your time because that may be taking away from either something else that's going on in an event, or if it's online, another class that's coming right after yours, and then people want to get to that class. So I like to do at least a 75-25 split. 75% of the class is talking, demonstrations, hands-on, whatever your class is about. And then the other 25% of the time is the actual talking. So if we're thinking about an hour, it would be 45 minutes of the talking, demonstration, hands-on, and then 15 minutes of just general talk, answering questions, going over material if somebody wanted to cover a point again, what have you. So it just kind of gives you a good rough time frame. And again, a shorter class is not a bad thing. It may actually even help depending on your class topic. So like this is a lecture. A longer lecture can for some people be a little bit boring or just a little bit tedious. So even cutting it short and not talking for an entire hour is good for them, and also probably good for your throat too if you're not used to doing a lot of talking. Kind of really dries out your throat. Testing your presentation. This is slightly different than testing your curriculum. So instead of just what you're talking about, this is talking about your setup. It's testing it out. So to get ready for this class, I had to set up my webcam. I had to turn on a light. I opened one of my blinds over on the window, made sure that the lighting looked good, make sure that it worked, got into Zoom, made sure my Zoom worked, things of that nature. I don't have any props, but if you had any props, you'd also want to just check those out, make sure that they're in good working condition. So if you're using something like garb and you have it on a dress form, you want to check the dress form, make sure it looks fine. Check the garb, make sure that looks fine too, just in case. Things of that nature. And then you want to also do that kind of again when you're at the site, if you're doing an in-person event, if you don't have that chance. So pre-run like before you leave, and then pre-run before your actual class starts on that detail. Excuse me. And then it's also something where like if you're just doing it at the park, you want to make sure that you have a place where you can go sit, dust it off, what have you. Make sure it's kind of prepared for your class ahead of time, because there's nothing worse than getting ready, you're jumping in, it's 5 minutes before your class and something's not right. So it doesn't work well, which leads us into the next section, adaptability when teaching. Things happen, problems happen. We see it every time we do an online event and we have online classes. Somebody's camera doesn't work, or the audio's gone out, or at an event, oh my gosh, I accidentally left that tote at home. So what you want to do is at least, I say half an hour to at least 15 minutes before your class, make sure you have all your stuff together, make sure you're all set up, you're ready to go. For me, the camera's on a tripod, so I have the tripod in place at least. So if I need to take my phone and go do other things, I have that option. Give yourself the time to be prepared. At events, it can be a little bit stressful because we're all running around, we're saying hi, we're playing games, we're taking another class. Sometimes you just have to take that kind of, I don't want to say hit, but you have to take that into account when you're teaching the class. It is a responsibility that you should be aware of. This also, again, anything where like you have to clean off an area or your class got changed to a different area, you have that time to move items, prepare the area, what have you. It's especially important when you're doing either a demonstration or you have hands-on, that your area is prepared ahead of time. So make sure, give yourself plenty of time to be able to kind of adapt or change if something happens, or if anything, you're just, getting set up in general. And then how to sign up to teach. This seems to be the hard one for a lot of people that we've seen. We get told a lot that people want to sign up, that they want to teach. And then when we have opportunities to teach, nobody signs up. So what I would say is, if you do want to teach, if you want to teach somebody else anything, whatever your topic is to try and find your venue. The venue could be online. It could be an opportunity like this where it's an online thing, or we did the Spring Medieval Academy where it was just all classes for a weekend, or for a day rather. Sorry, we're thinking about doing another one. There are avenues online, even if it's just you recording it, Facebook Live, and then they're going to be online. But good thing about Facebook Live is that you can record it. It stays on Facebook, and you can also get a screen grab of that video as well to post in other places. You're also not limited to your own kingdom. Look in other kingdoms and offer to teach a class over there. This was Neverwinter's event for this particular class right now, but we had teachers from Winter's Edge, our kind of sister kingdom up north, that were also teaching in it. It's not a problem. If you've got information that you want to share, if you've got a class, feel free, go anywhere you want to go. For in-person events, obviously you have to show up. It's kind of important. So for those, reach out to whoever's in charge of the event, the autocrat, and see if there's a time frame that you can go and teach in. It doesn't necessarily have to be, at a prime time of day. You could teach the class at night. But the thing that I would say is not to overlap with a big event. Like, so you don't obviously want to teach a class during court. You don't necessarily want to teach a class during breakfast. Things like that. So if you can get something like middle of the day, mid-morning, after feast or food, whatever that time frame may be, those are good times to teach classes. And a lot of times there are not a lot of classes going on at events. People who may not be interested in either the battle game or like a martial event may want to learn a class instead. So I never think a class is a bad thing. That also brings to the next point, and we're just feeding right through, is dealing with low class turnout. This is something that we've dealt with in a lot of our classes, where you only have 1 or 2 people show up to the class, or maybe it's just your friends showing up, and that's okay. The reason why we promote and we push so much for you to record classes for online is because they can be shared again later on. Even if it's an in-person event, you can have somebody go and videotape it for you and then post it online as well. That videos can get shared around. It can be put into, like, if we have a repository of crafting videos and class videos, it can be posted on there, and you never know who's going to pick it up. Think of success for your classes if one person has learned something new or learned some piece of information from it. As long as that's happened, then your class is a success. It's not a popularity contest. You don't have to have the most amount of people show up at your class. The important thing that you're trying to do is impart knowledge. So don't get stressed. Don't get disappointed if you only have a low class turnout. That's perfectly okay. It may just be the time of day, the phrase, the class, what have you. The great thing about a low class turnout is you have more one-on-one time, and you can also discuss the class with that person directly, see if they have any comments, constructive criticism, or if they have anything that they would like to see taught next time instead. So it can give you different avenues to teach your classes as well. So ultimately, in the long run, every class is going to be different. You do have to just kind of gauge how you like to teach. Do you like to do a lecture style? Do you like to do a demonstration, a hands-on? What kind of venue are you going to be at? Do you have the right equipment? Do you have the right gear? How you actually teach the class is ultimately up to you, and how you want to do it, because it is your class. So take the time, learn your information, find a venue. These obviously are steps kind of to work through that I provided here, and there will be a handout online. but then you don't have to follow those steps directly. You don't have to have the class before you have a venue. You could be asked to teach a class and then you're like, well, great, I guess I should make some documentation, shouldn't I? That's perfectly fine. So these are all just kind of guidelines and suggestions for you, but nothing that you have to follow per script. And my way isn't your way, and that's definitely okay. Just go out there and teach a class. And that's it, Kelly.